struck by boogie lightning. Here we are in fantastic New Jersey. We're finally out of New York City.
Yeah.
New Jersey on our state-by-state regional Golden Age horror septic shock road trip with me, Clive Davis, and my very good traveling partner,
Ron. Hi, everyone. Hello.
So yes, New Jersey, first of a couple of New Jersey double bills.
Right. New Jersey.
New Jersey?
Just like Long Island. Now we're in New Jersey.
You mean Long Island?
Island.
Actually, it's much easier to do that now in hay fever season. So yes, don't go in the house and the toxic Avenger. So I'm assuming you certainly will have seen the Toxic Avenger before, Ron.
Actually, I haven't.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
So, little story about Toxic Avenger.
Oh, hang on. Before you get there, do you want to say, because we're going to go in the house first. Do you want to
okay, I'll say it.
Okay. Sorry, I wrong-footed you there because I assumed you would have seen Toxic Avenger, but you wouldn't maybe have seen Don't Go in the House. But you haven't seen either before?
No.
Okay. Right, so Don't Go in the House started life as The Burning, but of course there was that other film called The Burning that managed to get released before it, right?
Okay.
1979, as directed by Joseph Ellison. And this is the tale of, so Dan Grimaldi plays a guy who works at an incinerator plant, right? A garbage plant. And he lives at home in his big old creepy house with his mean mother, who he kind of flashbacks to how she would, punished him by holding his arms over the stove, that kind of thing. He got scars. And she dies. And rather than tell anyone or go, he decides, finally I've got the first thing is he can play his disco music as well, and jump up and down on the furniture as well.
That was quite funny. He's I'm free from my overbearing mother. So can I play my records as loud as I want? There's this weird voice. Yes, you can. Okay, sure. And then disco viva. I was like, oh, that's when you chose. Okay, sure. And he's like, gets on the chair and he's jumping on the chair. Oh, okay, well that's where you go with the freedom. Okay, good. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's quite an amusing scene. And yes, and he hears all these voices and stuff. But more importantly, he decides to. Again, a lot of suspension of disbelief with this film. He constructs like this amazing flame-proof, like metal chamber.
Yeah, he just puts up this sort of like metal sheets on the wall that sort of, I guess, is supposed to be fire resistant or fireproof, or I don't know.
Yeah, my guess is you don't mess about with stuff like that. You've got to know what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I guess. Well, he works in an incinerator, so I guess he's obviously a pyromaniac, so maybe he's studied these things.
I suppose so. Yeah, and I guess independently wealthy enough, or I don't know.
Yeah. But I think that it looked like just stuff you could get at the hardware store. I think so.
Well, yeah, we'll see. You try building yourself a flame-resistant roof to burn women to death and run, and then come back and we'll talk.
Right.
So he goes out and he lures female victims back to this room that he's built, chains them up from the ceiling, dons his fire-resistant suit, and burns them to a fucking crisp.
And his homemade flamethrower.
Yeah. And to be fair, still to this day, the first time he does it, that's a pretty shocking scene, right?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. And quite realistic considering the 1979, so I thought it was very like it wasn't I expected just sort of like a overlaid fire. Sometimes they do that where they just overlay two images.
Yes.
And makes it look like but it wasn't. It looked like she was really burning.
Yeah, well, that is how they did it.
She was naked, right? So there's not like they could put like a fireproof suit on her or something like that. So
no, they did do it. It was some kind of effect involving a prism or something. It's clever camera trickery, but it's a hell of a it's a hell. The first time you see it, holy shit! It's
Yeah, yeah. You're like, wow.
grizzly.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And quite cleverly, they never kind of go back and do it again, right? You just get that
one time, and then
one scene,
and then it's just implied that he's doing it over and over again, right?
yeah, and you might just get a smoldering corpse or something.
Right.
And then so he keeps all these corpses around his house as well, and he hears his voices, and he's
sort of a burning psycho, basically, right? So he's got keeps the dead, dresses them up, and then talks to them like his dolls.
Norman Bates style. Instead of a slasher film, it's he tortures them, right?
Yeah.
And there's a kind of a scene which is both disturbing and hilarious, where he sets someone's hair on fire in a disco while L'Electrics Struck by Boogie Lightning plays on the you get to hear again during the end credits.
Right. Yeah.
Catchy number, this one. I like Struck by Boogie Lightning. So that's it, right? It's a psycho. It's along the lines of like we watched Maniac not too long ago, and I'm sure we'll probably be dipping into this some more across the country. But I'll ask you what you think in a minute. But for me, Don't Go in the House is kind of an interesting one, because it's apart from that one really strong scene, it's more, the rest of it's quite low key, isn't it? It's quite low key. It's quite a slow burn.
I see what you did there. Oh.
Coming in my pants. So it's got a kind of sad vibe more than anything, more than like shocking, or apart from that scene. So, and by the time it plays out, it's kind of got this cumulative kind of, it's a solid psychopath movie with one memorably grisly scene, and I like it quite a bit, I have to admit. The more I think about it, the more I appreciate this film. How did you get on with Don't Go in a House, Ron?
Yeah, to agree with you. Yeah, so it was really it was very understated, I think. So I think it's I was expecting more burnings, and even though it wasn't there, I didn't miss it. It was he what's his name?
Dan Grimaldi.
Dan Grimaldi. Yeah, he's a like shockingly terrible actor, but it sort of worked. Like I read one review which kind of summed it up, which I thought he's so bad that it seems like it's almost a documentary. So but it almost makes it worse, because he's bad, but he's so like awkward that he just seems to fit, almost like it actually works for the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I go so far as to say he's bad, but definitely whatever he's doing, it certainly is convincing. Like
convincing, yeah.
Him as that character, right? Like if you saw him in another film, you'd be surprised to see him, right? Because you don't think of him as an actor; you think of him as a psychopath who burns.
A psychopath in this one movie, right? So probably, it's like just telling his life story, kind of, rather than an actor, right?
He definitely convinces somehow. Whether he does it by accident or by design, I'm not quite sure. But it is quite it's because obviously this kind of film, like when we were talking about Maniac and how that might be a bit too much Joe Spinell for your average sane viewer. This kind of film really does hinge on your main protagonist, right? And whether you get on with him or not. And yes, I agree with you. For some reason, somehow, some sort of alchemy, this film gets away with him as the lead, right? He's perfect.
Right.
Lead.
Yeah. And yeah. Well, there's something else I was going to say about this. I did want to say also, I appreciate the new title that they changed to, because I found myself on several occasions literally shouting the title at the screen, like, "What are you doing? Don't go in the house!" And so it was there's definitely a plethora of stupid people. It all hinges on people really just going into this random stranger's house, right? So which, if by today's standards, he would never get to kill anyone, because no one would go inside, right? So but yeah, it was yeah, I thought I got along quite well with this movie. I was expecting a little bit more gore, but
Mm,
even though I didn't get it, I didn't miss it. It
no,
was yeah, I thought it was really understated, and I thought it was interesting character piece. And yeah, it didn't bore me. It was,
mm,
you know, it kind of moved along, even though it wasn't a lot necessarily happening. It was really kind of you know, had it really kind of like grim, kind of sort of tense tension behind it. You know,
yeah,
tense tension.
yes,
But yeah, it was like, it was sort of this sort of foreboding feeling the whole time. Like it was very unsettling to watch, which is
yes,
great, which is
it's
what it's
gritty,
meant
isn't
to do,
it?
right? So yeah, very
Yeah,
kind of gritty, and I thought the camera work really added to that and stuff, and it was quite, you know, kind of like a little nasty little, like, you know, psycho film. So it was,
yeah,
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 it was I thought it was pretty well done.
yeah. No, it's one of those ones. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's on that list of films where, you know, when people bang on about like the Friday the 13th films or things like that, and you watch them, and you're like, this is awful. And it's on that list of films, they're like, watch this. Like, this is what
Hmm.
this is what you want from this kind of film, is this
Yeah,
vibe,
yeah.
that kind of
Right.
really 80s kind of sleazy, sad, sick kind of vibe, right? And which
Yeah.
those other films don't deliver. But this does. You watch this
Mhm.
instead of fucking Friday the 13th final chapter or something, right? This is much more worthwhile. Uh, very briefly, in one scene, you can see Ken Kelch, who would become a cinematographer, and he was one of Abel Ferrara's um, cinematographers of choice, actually. And I suppose The Driller Killer, which he shot, came out around the same time as it. He's in this film very, very briefly, someone to look out for. So you watched, so just a bit of business so people know. So there's a great Blu-ray out now by Severin, and you watched the original theatrical cut, right?
Mm.
Which runs about 82 minutes. There's a TV version which runs 7 minutes longer, but it's toned down. So you don't
Mm.
get that opening burning scene.
Oh, okay.
But it's got a few alternative takes on some other scenes, some longer dialogue scenes, like different angles and things like that. And
Mm.
then there's an integral cut, which is everything combined into one, which runs about 92 minutes, with a good commentary by Stephen Thrower, who's been
Mm.
a long time supporter, a fan of this film, and wrote about it in his Nightmare USA book, which is one of the templates for this little series that we're
Mm.
doing here. Yeah, so yeah, don't go in the house. I think it's if you're into kind of this era, and you're looking for the slightly overlooked gems, right? This is
Right.
definitely one. This,
Yeah, definitely. It fits finally. I mean, I assume it's set in New Jersey, but it
yes,
definitely finally fits your what you're actually trying to do, is actually
yes,
movies that are
set in New
filmed
Jersey,
and set
shot
in
in New Jersey. Yes,
yeah, and right in that kind of sweet spot of the 80s, you know, early 80s, late 70s kind of stuff, right? And
hmm,
it's, yeah, and it's kind of obscure. It's quite obscure. I'd never heard of this movie before, and it you know, it's not it's not a hugely shocking, gory movie, but it's unsettling enough to worth a watch. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's, yeah,
with one memorably grisly
yeah,
set piece,
yeah,
and more
right, yeah.
importantly, struck by boogie lightning on the soundtrack. So it's got everything
Yeah, and
you need.
awesome soundtrack too. Awesome. I also particularly liked the second time he played his records, where it was this sort of like this random like guitar and
Yes,
guitar
hard rock,
rock.
proto
Yeah,
metal kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, with no lyrics, just like someone playing guitar for,
yeah,
and he falls asleep and he wakes up and it's still playing. So it's like, it
yeah.
must be like 8 hours of this guy playing guitar.
Yeah, it's like was it in the Dagada Vida, whatever that Iron Butterfly thing is.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
in the Gata Davida. Yeah,
yeah.
in the Gata Davida. Yeah, so but yeah, it was, yeah, I enjoyed this. It was not a bad watch. It got a little strange at the end because it was kind of a straight ahead kind of slasher psycho. And at the end it kind of started to get like a bit of a supernatural thing going on there, but I wasn't sure if it was meant to be supernatural, if it was supposed to be in his head.
Well,
But
yes, it's seeded.
yeah,
It is seeded throughout. There are a few bits where he imagines his mother's corpse walking around or talking to
yeah,
him.
in those times,
And
it
those.
certainly definitely seemed like it was just his imagination or it was just his head,
Yes,
right? That is,
yes.
but at the end, it kind of stopped being in his head and started being like, oh, maybe this is actually happening, kind of thing. So I wasn't
Hmm.
sure about that. What did you think about that?
I mean, I didn't necessarily think it crossed over into becoming reality. I
Well,
mean,
because especially like the very last scene where you got the new kid. So spoiler, there's a new kid at the very last scene
yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
different kid, and he's being hit by his mom, and then the same voices are now in his like, oh, now we're with you. So the I think the implication was that it was some sort of like demon or something that was possessing
Oh no, I didn't read
the
it like
guy, and then
that.
that now that he was dead, has gone to a new abused kid that sort of like goes around to
No,
different abused kids.
I don't think so. The way I read that, it was just about the transferring of trauma, right? Like, so for instance, his mother was mean to him and fucked him up. And then I think they were just using another example. Look at this mother being mean. That means her boy's going to turn up to be a little psycho as well. I don't think it
Well,
was specifically the same. I mean, it was the same voice, but I don't think it was meant to be I think it was just supposed to be, if violence begets violence kind of thing, right?
Well, I would buy that, but it was specifically what the voice said at the end, which is that now it's something like it was almost like now we're in your head or now we're with you. It was sort of really almost I can't remember the exact wording, but it seemed like it was saying we've we've come and now we're in you instead, right? It was almost like
Mm.
it's so like I would have bought it if it was just like okay now trauma
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is happening, it's a cycle, but in this case it seemed almost like it was like a something that was supernaturally moving to another. It was finding abused kids to possess or something, but I don't know.
Well, Septic Shop road trip viewers, discuss.
Discuss. What do you think?
Yes.
Are the comments open?
They're always sadly open and
No
ignored by
problem.
all.
Like and subscribe.
Right. So we stay in New Jersey, or as it's also known, Tromaville, for
Right.
the Toxic Avenger 1984. So yeah, so I'm kind of interested now I was interested to talk to you about it before, but I'm more interested now to find that this is your first time actually watching the original Toxic Avenger.
Well, Toxic Avenger again. So I was going to mention this before. So is one of those movies that sort of fits into the category of movies that you think you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought I've seen it, but
Right.
I hadn't actually seen it, right? So because it's so part of the zeitgeist and and talked about, and it also if it's not sort of relevant, but I've seen the stage musical version of the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, that's something I'd
Yeah,
totally forgotten had
yeah,
happened.
yeah. So so a little bit of a backstory on that. So about I don't know 15 years ago or so, my wife and I went to New York, and we were just kind of hanging out in New York for a couple of weeks, and we saw some Broadway plays and off Broadway plays.
Did you go to New
And
Jersey?
what's that?
Did you?
We didn't go to New Jersey. No,
Okay.
no, we were just in New York. But and we were just looking up random shows, and randomly there was it was the final night of a show, The Toxic Avenger the musical, and I'd heard of The Toxic Avenger, but I couldn't remember if don't know if I'd ever actually seen The Toxic Avenger, but I knew about The Toxic Avenger. I knew all about it and all about Tromavilles and trauma movies and stuff like that, right? So and so I was like, and it ended up being starring a guy that I went to theater school with back from my hometown in Canada. So this guy had sort of hometown boy makes good, where he actually moved down to New York and then became like a off Broadway and then eventually a Broadway actor. And then also the guy who several years later was one of the first deaths from COVID. So he actually died.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, this is a guy I went to theater school with, and when I was in theater school with him, we did Evita, and he played Che Guevara. I played the main guy in that case, and so he had gone down, and he had basically he had created or started the role of the Toxic Avenger in the musical, and and I went to go see it, and it was the final performance. So actually, it's kind of a special thing where I got to see this guy that I went to theater school with do the final performance of the show that had been running for several months or something like that, right? So, and it was kind of like a really special thing because they were kind of finishing up, and there was all this kind of love and gifts and stuff at the end, and that kind of
his
special
King
final.
Lear.
Sorry.
His King Lear.
Yeah, it was his King Lear. So, and it was fucking awesome musical, by the way. So I can't recommend this enough. If anyone has a chance to see Toxic Avenger the musical, go see it. It's fucking awesome. It's amazing, and it was actually just playing in Tokyo just recently. I don't know. Yeah, obviously the Japanese version, but so it still has.
It was Toxic Avenger was huge here, right? So
yeah. And it was the music was done by I always forget this, but it was like some famous musicians, like guitarist or something. Like it was it was like
I wonder there is a new, they've been talking about it for years, but there is a new Toxic Avenger remake on the way, right? But I don't.
Is there?
I don't know if they're doing it straight up or if they're adapting the musical. Maybe, I'm not sure.
So it could. I don't know. It could be. Yeah. So it's So the music was by David Bryan, who is it's Bon Jovi's keyboardist. That's it. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, which doesn't say much for it, but actually the music was really, really good. I bought the soundtrack right after I saw it, and I used to listen to it like a lot, like after I first. And it's really, really catchy songs, really, really good music and stuff, and it was just a really awesome. So actually, coming into the Toxic Avenger, I just felt like I had seen it because I'd seen that,
right?
But then I thought I'd seen the movie. I've seen Troma movies before, but I guess it was always sort of like the movie that I was like, oh yeah, the Toxic Avenger. But I just never actually sat down to watch it. So I was like, watching. I was like, oh yeah, actually, I've never actually seen this. So
he's Troma's Mickey Mouse, right?
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. So I mean,
but you haven't necessarily seen.
Yeah, and there's like 3
Willy
sequels.
Fantasia.
3...
Yeah. So
I
just while we're on the musical tangent, I mean, does the musical correspond to the plot of this first film?
Pretty close. There's a few differences, like for example, like the Melvin and the Toxic Avengers played by the same actor, for example.
Oh, okay.
The evil mayor is a woman instead of a fat guy, right?
Okay.
There's a few small things, but yeah, definitely the same thing that he's bullied, gets dumped into toxic waste, turns into Toxic Avenger, cleans up the town, has a romance with a blind girl, like all those kind of main beats are all there.
Okay. So there we go. That is the plot. So we should mention as well. So this is the film that kind of makes Troma as well, right? So
yeah, I guess they'd been around before, but I guess they were going under, and this one was sort of saved them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah. So they'd been around for quite a while, especially as a distributor, and they had made some in-house films. They'd done a couple of sex comedies, The First Turn On, Waitress, Stuck on You, stuff like that. A Squeeze Play, and they'd kind of done all right for themselves, but yeah, I think this was the first film that kind of gave Troma a brand, right? Like this is what we're all about,
right?
Certainly in terms of their in-house. So they followed this up. Their next big in-house production would have been Class of Newcomb High, right? So they went that kind of toxic waste boot.
And I think, I haven't seen all the Troma films or even that many of them, but from the ones I have seen, it seemed like maybe this was the one that actually they did the best. It seemed like like sometimes their quality kind of like they kind of phoned it in quite a lot, right? So
I think if people were to make usually when people talk about like what's an actually good Troma film or one that's better, it's usually either this or later on when they did Romeo and Juliet, right?
Romeo and Juliet, yeah. But I saw Romeo and Juliet, and I didn't really like. I mean, this was a long time ago, but I didn't really enjoy it that much. Maybe I'll have to go back and revisit that one. So,
well, no, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, I don't know if they've ever really made like a truly great film. I think
but this movie was quite enjoyable though. So I'd say that. I mean, of all the movies I've seen, I enjoyed this the most, right? So
I mean, the thing with Troma is that the problem I have with Troma by and large is and is I'm in favor of it because in aggregate I like the idea of it. It's like one of the oldest independents still around, and I like the fact that they're they are an underdog story into themselves, right? And
right.
Kaufman's an amusing presence, and when he turns up, and I like hearing him talk. Even though if you ever see any of the documentaries, actually the documentaries about the making of Trauma films are usually much more entertaining than the films. And Lloyd
Right.
Kaufman is a fucking arsehole on set. Like most famously on Romeo and Juliet, he made Lemmy from Motorhead cry. Look, that's how much of a dick he is on set. But at least
Wow.
he's aware. So yeah, so for instance, I think it's the fourth Toxic Avenger film, Citizen Toxie, the making of documentary Farts of Darkness is very entertaining. And then they did a film called Poultrygeist, which is a great title.
Yes.
And yeah, the making of documentary Poultry in Motion is much more entertaining than the actual film.
Right.
Because the thing with Trauma is they go for this overkill thing, right? I mean, it's just a barrage, non-stop gore comedy pratfall
gags. Yeah.
And it's
nudity. How much schlock can we get into? Like 90 minutes, right?
And it depends on the dosage. So yes, like in this film in general, even though it is, probably it's not far from it's fun. But then something like Trauma's War, I remember being just just like headache inducingly terrible. Even though, but apparently it's one of James Gunn's favorite Trauma film, because of course James Gunn wrote Trauma. Like James Gunn got his start at Trauma.
Right.
And then he went on to fantastic success, of course, and all of his films are quite interesting, I think.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I just want to just as a quick side note. Yeah, I'm just looking up the remake that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
It's in post production now. I guess with Kevin Bacon and Jacob Tremblay from Room, and Elijah Wood and Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, so it could be.
It could be interesting. It doesn't actually say who is actually. I mean, they've got like four really big actors, but it doesn't say who's actually playing the
Isn't it Macon Blair directing it as well?
Macon Blair, yes.
Yeah, so that could be interesting.
Who did what? Green Room. I don't know.
Yeah, and well, isn't he? Am I remembering this wrong? But wasn't he an actor in Blue Ruin, and then he directed that film I Don't Belong in This World Anymore, or something like that it's called. And then
okay.
Yeah. And then
I don't know much about him, but anyway, so I'll definitely check it out when it comes out.
He could be a good choice for it, but I don't know if they've gone the musical route or if they've gone the. I haven't heard anything about musicals, so it might just be a straight up. But yes, Melvin, who so Tromaville, aka New Jersey, is the toxic waste capital dump of the world, right? Basically, and there's a health club there where some teens led by Bozo, as played by Gary Schneider. I do like his performance. She's stressing me out, Ron! She's stressing me out! He's quite a lot of fun.
I think just as a comment here is that they all kind of hit the right note with this one. Like there's all the performances and the it's suitably heightened.
Yes.
I mean, like they're not playing. They're obviously playing it for. I mean, like there's like the main bad guys are so like comically bad that they like addicted to hitting and killing people with their car. Like it's it's so ridiculous, but they play it up for so like that. It's like, oh, that's just funny, right? So I mean, like they try to hit kids with their car, but it's almost like you can forgive how fucking offensive that would be.
Because they do it with such
it's so obviously done for gags, right? So.
Well, that's the other thing that's worth mentioning about this film as well. I'm wondering how the new version would play out, because again, it's so much of its time and place where it does have. So these Bozo and his pals, when they're not hanging out in the health club, they're going around knocking kids off there by running them over and backing up over their heads, and
Yeah.
and that stuff's quite nasty, really.
Yeah. I mean, like,
It's got an edge to, and then they jump out the car and take fucking Polaroids of the crime scene as well, and
yeah.
touch themselves while looking at them later. So it's all it's it's quite edgy. Anyway, yeah, and yeah. So then you have Melvin the Mop Boy, as played by Mark Toggle, in another stellar performance. I do like Melvin's. He's quite funny. And yeah, so they bully him. They set him up with he has to wear a stupid pink tutu and kiss a sheep. Ends up falling out the window of the health club into a passing truck's barrel full of toxic waste, and turns into the Toxic Avenger, who you notice they didn't have a title for this film for the longest time. So if you remember in the last scenes where he becomes a bit of a hero, everyone's wearing these t-shirts saying, "I love the monster hero." They didn't actually have a proper this generic t-shirts.
Yeah, they never once said Toxic Avenger once in the whole movie. So.
Or as he was known in, because as we said, this film was a huge hit here in Japan, which is why the first of the sequels were set and filmed in Japan, right? Toxic Avenger 2, they came here. It's called the Doku Doku Monster in Japan. Doku Doku Monster. And yeah, so he turns into Doku Doku Monster, and yeah, like you said, he becomes a vigilante and starts kind of gorily and very
cleaning up the town.
Yeah, with his mop and
cleaning up the town with his mouth. Cleaning up the town, literally.
Yeah,
right?
Pulling out eyes and ripping
arms. He rips people's arms off, crushes a guy's head with a weight from
at
the gym.
Occasionally goes too far, right? Like puts a old woman in a trouser press or something. Like, even though it turns out later she was like some kind of vicious villain or something. But
right, So that's the hinge point, is that he's only going after people who are doing really bad things, and then he does it with this seemingly kind of innocent woman, and then they start to turn against him, sort of a la Frankenstein. And then it turns out that she was actually like this really evil person, that she was unheard of, but it doesn't explain that, how he knew that, right? So, but
no. And also worth mentioning as well that Jennifer Aspinall did the effects for this. She worked on we talked about Spookies, and we talked about Street Trash as well, of course, which is the kind of non-trauma film. And her effects work is really good. It's really ambitious, isn't it, for a obviously very low budget film? Like, all the effects in this film are pretty great. They're like very real on camera, prosthetics and things, and it all looks very
gross.
Yeah. So she did a really good job on this film.
Yeah, that was
had peanuts to fucking work with. And what struck me most watching this film this time, what really jumped out at me, was how they fucking went for it with the stunts. Like, fucking car chases, cars jumping off cliffs,
and tanks.
Yeah,
they had a tank. I was like, how do they afford to get a tank if this was the movie that if they were going under and almost bankrupt? How do they afford to get a tank? I was really shocked. I was like, oh, I didn't know there would be a tank in this movie.
I'm always really impressed by flaming man stunts as well. And there's one doozy in this one with this guy just running down the street. I know it's in slow motion, but still, he's on fire for a fucking long time.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a. So they really went for it in terms of like trying to get as much production values on screen.
Right.
Right. And Toxie, of course, ends up living in Toxic Dump and gets a girlfriend in the form of country singer Andre Miranda, who's cute. I liked seeing her. She doesn't.
I'd say that I a lot of the times 80s movies, the girls don't really do it for me, just because the hair is so bad that you can't really tell what they actually look like. But she was really, really cute. More than most girls of this era are for me. So
she even has a song on the soundtrack somewhere apparently, but I couldn't quite hear it.
So she was a country singer?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. She didn't do any other acting other than this movie, and like
no, and they got other girls in to play her character. Well, actually, they got other Toxie in as well for the sequels. It's the only one where Mitch Cohen plays him as Toxie.
But she did really well. Is she, like, for someone who had never acted before or since, she, like, I mean, she wasn't obviously, like, I didn't believe that she was blind. I'm not saying that, but I mean, it was she hit the tones quite well, though. I thought she was, for an untrained actress. So
I'm guessing this is one of the elements that's going to be different in the new version is the blind gags, right? I don't think they're quite going to go for the blind gags with such
right, yeah. Well, I'm really, really curious how they're going to redo this movie, because I mean, this movie's about being offensive, right? I mean, like, that was
absolutely,
the modus operandi, and in today's climate, I'm really curious how they handle a movie that is intentionally offensive, right? So I'm really curious how they do it. So
without it just being bland, right? Because it's kind of it's interesting. It's very much. I was thinking about this, like, why was this kind of thing? Why did things? Because it's not just this. There was a thing in the air, and I suppose, I mean, fucking mid-80s New York City, the reality of it would have been so fucking grim that like this is nothing compared to real life, right? So
real life,
so
you see like, oh yeah, okay, and then you go inside and you're like, oh
so this is like a way of kind of dealing with it. But in a way where if you'd have made it too nice and shiny and clean, then people wouldn't have bought it, right? Do you need
exactly.
So it gets a little bit repetitive towards it, but yes, no, I agree with it. It still holds up as it's fun, isn't it? It's a fun ride. One of my favorite lines as well is, speaking of cartoonish villains, there's like one character who's supposed to be like a trying to sell like a 12-year-old girl on the streets, like, only 12 years old and only $12. There's a really funny scene where he's trying to send her to Toxia, and the girl's obviously been tricked, and she goes, "He's not David Bowie."
You told me you're doing it to David Bowie. Yeah.
I got a big laugh.
Yeah. I thought it was, I mean, it's as I said, intentionally offensive. And so it's, as long as you get past the offensiveness, but I mean, they hit the right note, I think, all the way through. And I mean, I think it was a difficult thing to pull off, to have so many offensive things in a row, but everyone plays it exactly right, so that it's totally understandable and forgivable, I guess, right? So, and watchable. So so I think it totally holds up. I'm glad I finally got to see this movie, and it was like, it was. How do the sequels hold up?
They're not as good. I mean, the second ones would be interesting to go back and watch now after having spent so much time here. It would be interesting to see Toxie in Japan again.
Right.
Interesting. But then after that, I mean, law of diminishing returns, right? But they've all got something in them, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
I might take a note if I have time.
Yeah, very interesting to see the what they do with the new one. Did you spot Marisa Tomei? I didn't.
No.
Yeah, she's in there somewhere. She's in the gym, coming out of a shower or something, apparently.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go back and check. I didn't see that. Okay. Yeah. But I'm glad I was able finally to see this, and it was good fun. Yeah. So I mean, there's a reason why it's has its reputation. So
yeah,
and it holds up. So
okay. So well, we're not going anywhere. We're staying here because we'll be in New Jersey again next time. So until then,
do Joyzy. Say Joyzy.
Right, that'll do.